This episode is about hope in Advent. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. This week begins Advent, the season of anticipating, preparing for, and waiting for God coming into the world anew in Christ. And in this season, there are usually themes associated with each week. Traditionally, the first week is hope. Many churches gathered around Advent wreaths and lit candles of hope. And then we read the texts, and one of the texts for this week is from the prophet Isaiah, in which it begins, "Tear open the heavens, O Lord, and come down, and show all nations that you are God." There's a reference to shaking the mountains and stirring up the fires and all of these things, essentially begging God to come down to earth, shake things up, and fix what is broken. Restore the people of God. Isaiah goes on and ends with that beautiful image of the people of God being clay in God's hands, and God is the potter. And we tend to focus on those last few verses of being clay in God's hands because that makes us feel good. And we tend to not pay too much attention to that other stuff because we want God to fix things, we want to be clay in God's hands, but we don't want to deal with the fact that we live lives separated from what God created us for. We can relate to the idea of God coming down and fixing what is broken. And what does that have to do with the hope in Advent? The hope in Advent, of course, has already come to us in Christ, who is the full display of God's steadfast love for the people of God. And that never changes. But to say that we still hope that God will come down and fix what's broken in the world says that we haven't been listening very well. God has already done that. Since the time the prophet Isaiah spoke, God came into the world and shook things up in a big way. And we are still wishing God would fix things. This year, there is much that is broken in the world. There are many places that need hope. The challenge in Advent, at least for me, is how do I become part of that hope? How do I join together with others to embody the hope that is needed in the world? That means I need to find it for myself, reclaim it once again for myself, and then go and let it shine outward in the world so that others too can feel and participate in the hope that God brings us into and creates us to be. So I hope you will join me in that Advent challenge of not only finding the hope that is grounded in God's steadfast love for us, but then becoming that hope for the so many places and peoples in need today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.